It's really easy to remember. So the next one is, what makes a fine wine? I know you all guessed this one. Dandelion. Okay, and what else do we know about dandelion? Well, the root is hypoglycemic, which means that if you need to stimulate appetite, you can use it. Now, I don't need that. But it works as a natural antibiotic against yeast infections. And instead of going and buying an expensive antibiotic, you can use dandelion root. You chop it up, again, you boil it, make sure it's very clean, and it works against Candida albicans, and that's a common yeast infection. And you can just take care of it. It stimulates appetite. It's also used in cystitis and inflammations, anti-inflammatory compounds in the leaves and the roots. All plant parts can be used as food. It contains vitamin A, C, iron, and calcium. Dandelion leaf is approved in Germany for treatment of loss of appetite, to stimulate appetite, boil roots as tea, and again, as an anti-inflammatory. So there you go. Again, the Germans are way ahead of us. Yes?
I also learned from the historical place I used to work at that dandelion, another thing is a lot of the soldiers and stuff would make a little concoction from it because it can also have a little bit of a, not hallucinogenic, but sort of like a free in your mind kind of effect as well. Yeah, so it's some sort of stimulant. And they also used to use it for that back in the day.
Huh, interesting. I'm against the use of plants such as cannabis for hallucinogenic reasons or entertainment, recreation purposes. So I know there are people that use them that way, but my personal opinion is that if it's not legal, don't use it. So that's, I'm a simple person that way. So we'll get back to another part of the history. Okay, what looks like the orange tuber that bunnies like to eat this time of year?
Carrots.
Carrots, right? Well, what makes you think of carrots? I was hoping actually to get some gardeners here who might be able to look at this and go, oh, those are carrot tops. Do I have any gardeners here?
Someone picked it out.
Yes, it's someone, oh, Jim, you're good. So it looks just like a carrot top. And when you say that, you're like, well, how is it? It looks like it. Now, here's the thing, and this is very important about this plant. This is called a Queen Anne's lace. And when people see it, they look at it and they say, wow, you know, Queen Anne's lace, it has that big white round flower top, and everyone's certain they can identify it. And when it's coming up in the ground and they look at it, they think it might be a carrot. Because it's sitting in the ground, it looks exactly like a carrot. Well, that's because it's called Daucus carota. So it belongs to the carrot family. But this is where a person who's dealing with plants really absolutely has to take care. And I say this with much emphasis because this plant can be mistaken and used in the trust that it's the right plant, and it turns out to be poisonous hemlock because they belong to the same family. Now, how do you tell? Well, if you can't tell and you're not certain, and really, I encourage you not to take this plant and use it unless you're absolutely certain. I knew this was Queen Anne's lace, but I work with plants. But when you get this plant and you see that white flower, if it doesn't have the purple umbella in the middle of it, there'll be a purple umbella right in the middle. And if you don't see that, you do not use this plant. So this is important to know. So inside the white cap that you see, you'll have to find the umbella. And if there's any chance that you don't know, or you're not certain, or you think you might see it but you don't use this plant because it can become very toxic. Now, on the other hand, if you have Queen Anne's lace, that beautiful, lovely roadside weed that requires no water at all, and I've never watered my Queen Anne, and yet I get it back every year. The experiments with mice that they're using right now have shown that there is anti-cancer activity in the seeds. Well, those are the experiments. Now, prior to this, it has been conclusive, and science has confirmed that it is bactericidal. That means it can be used to combat bacteria. It's hypotensive. That means it can lower blood pressure. And it has worm expelling properties. Well, that's not the best thing, but that's good if you have animals. So Queen Anne's lace is actually a very beneficial plant. So that's something that you should want to know because, again, this plant was brought over as an important herb by your ancestors. It was brought from Europe. So when we look at it, we're like, why is there so much of this around? It's because originally people understood the uses of these plants. People brought them deliberately because they understood that these could be used as medicine. And now once we took over and became westernized, things changed. It was like, it kind of took the cowboy attitude and you're like, shoot 'em up. The doctor's like, wow, I've got pills, I've got shots. 30 pills next month, I'll see you in 6 weeks. Done. He's taking care of your problem with a few pills, right? And once you start taking shots, it's like, ha, done. It's over. Why mess around with a plant? It takes a long time to grow those things, and then you gotta fertilize, and then you gotta wait, and then you gotta, why go to such trouble? The trouble is that as medicine becomes more and more expensive, and people start moving away from what's necessary in their diet, they also start moving towards disease. So the things that your ancestors had daily that actually prevented cancer are no longer in your diet. So it's important to try to look back and remember the things that our ancestors did. Because as the cancer rates are going up, our health is getting worse. And yet, nobody from my ancient history ever died of cancer. Why is that? Because genetically and scientifically, we have a makeup that responds to certain plants. There was a reason why the herb wife walked through the street saying parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Because within those songs and within the memory of what we have within our ancestors' writings, we have code. The herb wife wasn't just a person who walked around talking and giving out medicine. She was a person who passed on code. She was a person who passed on memories. Because at the early onset of our ancestors' homes, our clans, and the creation of our social groups, we really did not have any form of writing. So our only form of communication was what was passed on through oral traditions. So when they sang these songs, when Shakespeare and everyone else said, I rue the day you were born. Oh, I rue this terrible, terrible time. Why would they always use the word rue? R-U-E. It's ridiculous. Why would we care about such a plant? And why is it always grief? Well, because when eaten, this plant can give you great grief. R-U-E is a very dangerous plant. When eaten, can cause an abortion. I rue the day you were born. Why do we always remember that? Because somewhere within our ancestry, they were telling us things. These codes, these ideas have been lost. When you think of something such as, you come from good stock, don't you? How many of you have heard that? They come from good stock. This plant is called stock. And why would it be called stock? Well, they chose this word because this plant is so reliable. It absolutely can never fail. It will bloom, it will come back, it will seed, it will do everything that it's supposed to with little or no assistance. It's so firm and so reliable that we call it good stock. So again, you have code. When you hear of a stock plant or good stock, they're telling you something. So this is all part of what being an herb wife was. Not just, gee, can I pass on some plants, but let me pass on some of our oral history, some of our traditions. When my ancestor, Lady Rolette, came here from Wales, she came here with her papers, and she filed them and registered as she was required to. In those days, if you were of nobility, you were required to carry around your papers just like a passport. You were expected to. It was your responsibility. Now, why would a noblewoman know about plants? Because it really wasn't what we thought it was. A lady in charge of in any position who had servants working for her was actually responsible for their health and well-being. So that meant that the title didn't just come with, gee, I'm a lady and I get this. It came with responsibilities. She was responsible for all the people that were in her household. So think of it this way. If you were higher up in rank and you had 50 servants, guess what? You had 50 people to take care of. You had 50 people to manage. It was like running a small business, literally. And more importantly, a well-run household by any Scottish woman meant that she had to keep her family healthy. So the more she knew about herbs, the better her children fared, the better her husband fared, the better her clan fared. So the more you knew, the better off you were. And so these oral histories that we talk about when I talk about code are very important, and we don't really think about them. We don't think about things like, remember me. Well, rosemary actually now has been scientifically proven to help you and assist you with your memory. So every time you hear something, think a little bit more carefully about how that plant is being portrayed and what it is telling you. So the next one is sitting by the dock of the what? Watching the tide. Right, bay laurel. And what do we know about the bay laurel? The crown, right? Everyone's familiar.